I've had a few requests for my 2026 crop plan. If you are interested in what annuals I am growing for 2026, then stick around for this video because we're going to break them down and dive right in and talk all about the annuals I am growing for my cut flower farm in Door, Michigan in 2026. I also just want to say this is not a this is what you should grow list. This is the list that has been evolved on my farm as I'm going into my 7th year of flower farming. So this annual crop list looks really different for me today than it did in year 1, and it has evolved over those 7 years. So I'm not like suggesting that you copy and paste this, just understanding where I'm at in my flower farm maybe can help you make decisions about what's profitable and what's helpful annuals to grow on your flower farm. And again, like I said, I'm in Door, Michigan, so this crop list might look really different if you're farming somewhere like in the South or in another climate or in a different country. Just keep that in mind. Also, I just want to say that creating this video was very fun for me. I really enjoy creating videos like this and just the thought process, and even just for myself, putting it on paper and justifying, why do I grow this? Or what is the reason that this fits into my crop plan? So just this was really fun for me to create. So I really hope that you enjoy it as well. Also, I want to say that my farm started with almost actually 100% annuals. The first year I grew 100% seed grown annuals that I started from seed. That is not what my farm looks like today at all. That is sort of just gives you an idea of the evolution of my flower farm and how it's grown over the years. So I talk about this in other videos as well, but I like to start with what is cheap and easy to grow from seed, that gives you high profitability, that has low risk and low investment when you're starting off. I'm not at that point in my business or my farm, and so have heavily invested into perennials and woodies. So this video is only going to talk about the annuals. The next video I'm going to address perennials and talk about woodies also, or show you where to go for those. So this one is about annuals, perennials and woodies, future video. Like I said, I'm Ruthann from Abundant Blooms Flower Farm in Door, Michigan, going into my 7th year of flower farming. 2026 is my 7th year. And just for context, I sell almost exclusively directly to florists, and I do have a download, free tips for selling flowers to florists. So if you're interested in that, grab that in the description below. I'm in zone 6A. It was formerly 5B. Depends on who you ask what zone we're in, but that definitely influences the crops that I grow. So I'm going to share what crops I'm growing and sort of like why each of them earns a place on my farm, and small like strategic planning things. I'm breaking this down into 4 different sections because this helps me think about my crops, my crop plan, my bed space, and just kind of helps my brain wrap myself around what I'm growing. So the 4 different categories are annuals that are grown from corms, bulbs, or tubers. And the second category is annuals that I grow that I direct seed into the ground, directly in the ground. The third category is annuals that I grow that I start myself from seed and grow transplants and then transplant them. And the fourth category is annuals that I grow that I buy plugs for and then transplant. Okay, so 4 categories. Don't get lost. Stick with me. I think it will help. It helps my brain anyway. Do you hear the rain on the tunnel? Love it. Also, I evaluate every annual crop pretty strategically, pretty specifically every year. So this is about 24 crops, I believe. Every one of them has to earn their place. I have very limited bed space, like probably most of you. I have about an acre in production, and less than half of that has annuals grown on it. So these are the ones that have made the cut this year, not necessarily that they'll make the cut in the future or how things will go. So I'm trialing a few things, a couple things I've never grown before. This is only my 2nd year with a tunnel, so I'm still learning this space in particular and what things will grow best in here. Just because I limit things doesn't mean that I'm not trying new things also. So without further ado, let's jump into our first category: bulbs, corms, and tubers, the annuals that I grow. There's not very many in here. These tend to be higher risk and higher investment for sure. The first one is tulips. These are field grown. I consider them a pretty risky crop. Honestly, they're on the chopping block. I'm not sure the future of tulips on my farm, but I do have them planted. I planted them last fall, and so I will have them in the spring of 2026. At least that's the plan, unless none of them come up, you know. If you want to know about my tulip disaster, I just did a video all about my 2025 tulip season, which was kind of a sad year. So if you want to know more about that, feel free to check that out. The next flower in this category is anemones. So these are grown in my high tunnel. I don't grow like massive amounts of them, but they're a really great spring crop. The next flower in this category is ranunculus. These are grown in my high tunnel. They are an incredible crop for me in May and June. At least we try to get them into June, depending on the weather. And they're just absolutely a great crop for spring. They were my top selling crop for 2025, and I am definitely scaling them up in 2026. I also added dahlias into this topic because I think most people think of them as annuals. I am actually trying to perennialize my dahlias. I did a video about dahlias, and if this strategy doesn't work, I'm not sure that I will keep growing them, but I do have dahlias planted. Okay, so that's the end of that category. Moving right into direct seeded annuals. These are lower cost. Like typically these are pretty cheap seeds, and to me they're very easy to grow and maintain. I actually did a video all about how I direct seed on my farm early last spring, and it's a great video kind of walking you exactly through how I direct seed. But to me, direct seeding crops are pretty easy. I'm pretty fast at planting them, and they tend to grow really well for me. I have a good weeding system and all that stuff. So this is the next category. Things I grow in this category would be bupleurum. I love bupleurum. I fall plant bupleurum and I spring plant bupleurum. Saponaria is the next one. That one comes in two colors. It's in pink and white. I love them both. It's a fantastic airy filler. I plant this in the fall, in the spring, and I succession plant this every 2 to 3 weeks all summer. It becomes a lot shorter, but it still grows, and my florists love it. The next crop is Nigella. I fall plant this and spring plant this. I grow it for both the blooms, particularly the blue. If you can match your blue crop up with a florist wedding, I mean, it's amazing, and they can't get enough of it. But I also sell it for the seed pods, which is great because it has a dual purpose, gives you a little bit more time to sell it. The next crop is larkspur, also fall and spring plant this, direct seeded. And then the next one is Orlea. Orlea is a really important crop on my farm, and I definitely fall and spring plant it, and it's really amazing. The two tend to just the one goes right into the other, the succession. So that's really great. My wedding and event florists really like this crop. The next crop is giant poppy pods I grow. I grow one succession of these. I can't, well, I don't think I can fall plant it, but I have had some volunteers of late over winter. So I've considered trialing that, but they say they're hardy to zone 7. So, but I spring plant them and I get one succession and I just do one row and I get tons of them, and the florists really like them. They're really unique and different, and not a ton of people grow them around me, and so it's a great crop, even though it's just like one crop for a really short period of time, but it just really is a great crop. Also, you're selling the pods, not the flowers, and so the pods can hold in the cooler for weeks, like 6 weeks, because it's not a flower, so it holds for a lot longer, so that makes it a more versatile crop. And almost to the end, I grow cress, which I mostly just have on hand because any time of the season, if I have 10 feet at the end of the row, I can just direct seed this cress. If I have a perennial that failed or another crop that failed, I can just quick plant this into a bed and get a crop out of it. So I do grow some cress, but it's not necessarily in my strategic crop plan, but just a backup for if I have a little bit of space. And the last one is agrostemma, which is I've never grown before, so I'm trialing it for 2026, and I'm going to spring plant it, and I would love it for another airy spring filler. And it comes in white and pink, which designer and event florists love in their design work. Moving right along, these are annuals that I grow, sort of seeds, transplant them out into the garden. This is not a very robust category. I do not grow that many plants on my flower farm that I start from seed, and there's lots of reasons about that. That's why this section is not very big, but these are really important crops in my crop plan. The first one is sunflowers. I grow about 750 of them for 18 weeks in succession every week, and I transplant them with my paper pot transplanter, so they're just a really, summer staple. The next one is Cosmos. I've actually done videos about most of these. So I did one on sunflowers also. So the next one is Cosmos. I do about 3 successions of it. I start them in my paper pots, which if you don't know what that is, I have a video about that too. And I transplant them out. This is a really great crop for my farm. I love Cosmos a lot. I have a full video on Cosmos. Zinnias is another one. I have a love-hate relationship with zinnias, but they have remained on my farm. I usually do 1 succession of zinnias. Again, I start them inside in my paper pots and transplant them out. I do have a whole video on zinnias. Another one in this is marigolds. Marigolds are returning for the 2026 season. I planted them a long time ago and then I stopped planting them, and then I returned them to my crop plan for 2025, and I planted them in midsummer for a fall harvest, which worked really, really well. The florists really liked it. It's great colors. So it works really great. So that's returning for this season. Again, I planted them in my paper pot transplanter and that worked great. The last one in this list is Feverfew. I've actually ordered plugs for this and I've grown it myself from seed. Actually, I ordered plugs for it this year. I've never ordered plugs for it before. I usually grow it from seed and transplant it out, and I love Feverfew. It's really a great crop. So the last category is plants that I grow from plugs that I order. So I buy plugs from a plug supplier. They come and I transplant them into my flower farm. These are more expensive. Some of these crops are hard to start from seed. They take a really long time to start from seed, or I just find like they're a helpful crop on my farm, and being able to purchase them and get the plugs delivered keeps my system going, and it just works for my farm. I don't have a lot of employees and it just makes sense for me. The crops that I grow from plugs are Lysianthus. I usually do 1 summer succession. I used to do it in the field. I've always done it in the field. And last year I did in my high tunnel for the first time. I'm hoping to be able to put them all in my tunnel this summer. So I do 1 succession of those. The next one is Campanula. Campanula is fall planted. I fall plant it in my tunnel. It's right behind me actually, right in this row, in the back of this row. And I plant it in the tunnel and in the field. I plant it in the field, again, zone 5A, 6B, no cover. It goes through our winters. It was 2 degrees the other morning. It is rock solid, beautiful in the spring. It doesn't need cover. I do cover it in the hoop just because I'm creating this environment and I have other things in this row that need to be covered. I have a whole video about Campanula, and I think it's an underutilized spring flower. It has a very short bloom time, really. So it only blooms for a couple of weeks, but I'm telling you, the florists go crazy over it. And if you enjoy this kind of a breakdown and these kind of in-depth numbers, you might be interested in my course. I go really into detail about all of these things and crop planning and how to sell to florists. It's all about selling flowers to florists. The next one on this list is Digitalis. So foxglove. I grew that for the first time last year in my tunnel. Everybody loved it. I'm growing it again and more of it. It's already planted in here behind me. And the next one, this is kind of an annual, kind of a perennial, so it depends on where you live, but I have it in this list, is Delphinium. I had a really hard time with Delphinium last year. I am still trying it, trying different varieties. I had a hard time with it in my tunnel, but it is on my crop plan. I'm trying to figure out how it fits in my farm, but it's a really great color, and because I sell to florists, it's a really valuable crop, and so if I can get it to work, I think it would be really great. I've had some success with it and some challenges. So, okay, we are moving right along here. So I have a couple of other annuals that I've never grown before. In my tunnel, I have pansies, so I'm hoping for that early spring crop to kind of go with my ranunculus and anemones. And then pansies also fits into that exact same category. They're both planted right there. So those two are just trying to knock out that spring crops. Again, I order all of those as plugs. And then a couple other ones are amaranth. This I did order plugs for just because I plant it in the middle of the summer to get that like late August, September, October crop. And I actually just grow it because I was trying to have a crop in my high tunnel that would do well with the heat. And so I grew it last year. I grew literally as tall as the crossbars in here. And it worked really well. I think I'm going to do it again if I have space in the tunnel. So it is 1 succession in the tunnel for fall planting. Goes in after all my spring tunnel crops are out. And then the other one in this category is celosia. I do the same thing for this. Actually, this one's in the wrong category. Well, okay, I've done it both ways. I've ordered plugs for celosia, and I also have started it from seed. I really like the rose gold celosia by Florists. That is the only celosia that I've grown on my farm in the last 2 years, and I've been saving seeds from it. So that's gone pretty well. So I do start that one actually from seed myself. But I have also ordered celosia as plugs in the past. I forgot to mention the other flower in this category when I was recording the video. The other flower is snapdragons. I order snapdragons from plugs, typically from Farmer Bailey or Ball Seed. I get them and then I plant them out, and I do that, and I do them in a couple successions. I'm actually kind of trying to figure out the best timing for them. I've tried many different things. I've tried different spacings, and like sometimes they just hit really great and really big and I've got really good harvest of them, and then other times, last year I dealt with a lot of disease issues and different things. So I still feel like I'm trying to figure snapdragons out, but they are definitely in my crop plan and I do grow quite a few of them. You might be wondering the source for all of these. So I order my seeds from Johnny Seeds and Geo Seed, GEO, which I buy like the bulk quantities. They're both great. And then for plugs, I have either ordered from Ball Seed, or I do order a lot from Farmer Bailey. It's pretty easy ordering. Quick tip, if you're ordering from Farmer Bailey, I just was putting in some plug orders and I realized I was getting charged taxes because you have to fill out their tax exempt form. And I hadn't done that. So I think I paid taxes on everything last year, which you shouldn't have to. You should be exempt because we're agriculture, at least if you're a real like legit business, which hopefully you are. So it was a pretty easy process. And within a few emails and 5 minutes, I now no longer have to pay taxes. So make sure you're checking that. So yeah, that's where I order my plugs and my seeds. That's it for the annual side of my 2026 crop plan. I think that's 25 or 26 crops. So hopefully you found that interesting and helpful, and just, you know, kind of thinking through crops on your farm. I'd love to know, you know, what annuals you like growing or what annuals are on your chopping list block for your flower farm. I think that's super interesting, and just really thinking through the numbers on this. So I am going to be going into perennials that I grow in the next video, and woody shrubs also that I grow. But if you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend that you check out my top 5 flowers that sold from my flower farm in 2025. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a really great video. It's super interesting if you're interested in things like this and numbers and strategy and profitability and talking about that kind of stuff. Until next time, I hope you're enjoying your farm and your family, and that you're finding beauty and wonder all around you in whatever season that you're in. I'll see you next time.